Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LTG show. This is episode 205. My name is Sean Wilburn.
I'm Tony Hannity.
And Radford Castro.
And we are here to talk about technology. This is the tech website for the site LazyTechEyes.com. That's a site you better go check out. It's an awesome site, LazyTechEyes.com. Just drop that in your URL. And by the way, if you're on your computer, you can do that while you're listening to this podcast. So feel free to double dip a little bit. It's okay. So LazyTechEyes.com, go ahead and visit the website. You can also reach us by email at comments@LazyTechEyes.com, or you can give us a call at area code 707-722-5299. We love to hear from you. Now, we also do this as a live show on Tuesday nights, Pacific Standard Time at 11 p.m. on Google Hangouts. So if you happen to be up at that time, feel free to jump on in there. We also have a Q&A that is open. So if you are watching this live right now, feel free to join us in the conversation, ask us any questions. And here's one question you could ask: who's that guy in the podcast here that's not
here?
Who is that guy? Rad, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good to be back.
Oh, Frozen. Good to be back.
Oh, Google.
Oh, Google's screwing with you again.
Oh, Internet.
Oh,
yeah.
ISPs.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rad, it's good to have you back. It's been a long time since you had on here. We definitely have some topics that you could drop some major, knowledge is how they say it in the streets?
Or pure ignorance.
Yes. So,
we'll see.
Either way, we're gonna have some fun doing. we're gonna have some fun doing it. So let's get started and let's start talking about governments and threats and all that. And the reason why we thought about this is because we did talk about House of Cards before the show, and this sparked this idea. So Tony, take us away.
Well, we love the government, right? And we love it that they continue to collect data on us without our asking, right? Or our permission, rather. So due to the Edward Snowden revelations and PRISM and whatnot, we all kind of know about this, but what we might have not known was that this all started closer in the years of 2008, kind of all before this whole privacy issue in that regard. And Yahoo was one of the first companies to kind of be targeted. Now, Microsoft was also one of the companies to sign up for this. Well, maybe not sign up, but they were kind of forced into this program where they have to hand over data to the NSA and other government agencies. And recently there was a document, a 1,500-page document, if you will, that really kind of shined the light on the interaction between the government and Yahoo, and that the government said to Yahoo, "Hey, we want you to give us X amount of data of your user base, of their IP address, their email address, and other information about them, and we don't have to tell you what it's for and what exactly we're going to do." And this kind of might sound familiar because, again, this was preemptive of PRISM. And at the time, Yahoo said, no, this seems somewhat unconstitutional, and it is, However, the government at this, and what is being revealed at this point, is the government threatened to fine Yahoo basically $250,000 per day for every day that they don't basically give in to this this order. And this is not an executive order from the president. This is just the U.S. government, essentially a new program that predates PRISM, and obviously Yahoo had to be compelled under those rules, and all the other companies followed suit. And again, due to Edward Snowden, this all kind of came about maybe about 2 years ago, and then all the companies kind of had to say, hey, look, we didn't sign up for it. It wasn't like it was like a picnic and we all kind of joined in and say, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. We were kind of forced into this, and this really does kind of put the spotlight on the government, saying, oh wow, you really, not only was this unconstitutional, you really kind of, I wouldn't say blackmailed Yahoo into it, but it kind of seems like that. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I think a lot of it's political, mostly because there's a lot of interests, and in politics, especially in the kind that we're in, where there's constituents that belong to certain parties, and of course, if they're not part of that constituency, most of the time, it's easy for the government to be able to lay waste and say. I think we're going to need a little bit of funding here and there, and part of that's going to include to do some data mining. I think we could leverage this to pull more information. So to me, it's more, I guess, part of it is the money, part of it really also is to just data collecting, part of just like you were mentioning about Prism, and that's such a big thing nowadays because everyone is all about the privacy, and it's been turned into this huge echo chamber, that's been thrown around in a lot of media outlets, but really not everyone really understands it so much, but it's almost turned into a business now, right? Just the knowing of it.
That we're losing you?
No, I hear him fine.
Yeah, like part of it is just knowing.
Okay.
It's money part, obviously. The second part really is the echo chamber and how it's becoming a huge. I mean, the fact that we're talking about it too says a lot about it, right? Because I mean, who doesn't want to capitalize on what people want to know about their privacy and their concerns for it, right?
If this came, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if this information came out in 2008, this is just like a year after the iPhone came out, the year of Android when it first kind of got introduced, just a little bit after BlackBerry kind of had its huge win, if you will. The fact that Yahoo is had to kind of fall to this, if this came out right there and then in 2008, do you think that would kind of get the ball rolling, so to speak, on public awareness of that, your information that you put up into the cloud is not yours at all, and anybody to a certain degree has permission, maybe by not just the company but also the government forcing them to, the government hand forcing them to do this, or are people still naive about it and they're just going to live blind to it no matter what?
Yeah, so I'm completely agreeing with your first point, and not only is it public awareness, it's also going to be public acceptance, right? So had that happened earlier before and people were a lot more knowledgeable, obviously you brought up some really good points about how a lot of the mobile front of all those guys like Google, Microsoft, and particularly BlackBerry, bringing everyone into the mobile realm and now getting data in the mobile realm, it just it invites everybody. There are people that have smartphones that don't even have computers, and we have their data already. And so because of that, and because the way information now is much faster and it travels much quicker because everything is mobile, it becomes a much higher pitched note, right? When someone talks about privacy, right? Because it's hard to hide from it now, right? But had that happened back in 2008 or even earlier, I think you would be. My personal professional opinion of it, just because I've been a security expert for so long, that people, if they were aware about it and understood how the information was used, it would not only bring public awareness, but also bring public acceptance, right? There would be a little bit more ease over how people are entering information into the internet.
This kind of reminds me of when the Google Street View cars were inadvertently collecting data of unprotected Wi-Fi nodes.
Yeah.
And people were up in arms about that. I'm like, oh my God, Google can see this and see that. At the same time, simultaneously, 2 years prior to that, this was happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting to see what happens. Crap has to happen for the everyday man to really start understanding what's happening and to get the ball rolling. And that's a good and a bad thing because, like you said, it can just become an echo chamber of just naive and incorrect information. And there are many times, even on this show, where we've said certain things based off of what other media outlets have said, and then a week later, like, oh, actually, we were all kind of wrong about that. Like the whole thing between Netflix and Comcast, we were all wrong about that,
Yeah.
But we come back and say that we were wrong on the following show.
That's
what makes it different. Yep.
Now,
but we don't want to be wrong to begin with, right?
No, we don't want to be wrong to begin with.
We always want to analyze our info.
No.
Yes, but we're humble. We understand.
But to follow up, also, this obviously hasn't ended. Google, with their annual transparency report, has posted that user data that has been requested by the government has actually shot up by 150% in the last 5 years. This is pretty crazy. Google published that back in data registration, data information such as registration information, emails, and IP addresses are up 15% in the first half of 2014, and up 150% since the first publication of this since 2009. And this is basically a total of around 31,000 government requests just in the first year. And only about 65% of those requests were fulfilled, but that's still over 50% of that, and that's a huge amount. And that's not even including the national security letters or anything that was made under the FISA Court Act. So, I mean, we don't even know, like, because again, under the FISA Court, Google can't say what, and that was the other thing about Yahoo. Not only are you going to give us this information, you can't tell anybody that you're giving this information to us.
Right.
This is still going on.
Right, and even more importantly too, is not just how much information, but the type of information that's being given.
I mean, they say it's only metadata. What could metadata is huge. I mean, yeah, to the layman, it's like, oh, it's just metadata, but it's so much information that if you know how to cultivate it and harvest it properly.
Oh yeah.
So, can I play the little devil's advocate on this one?
Sure. I was waiting for your tinfoil hat, to be perfectly honest with you, but go ahead.
No, I haven't made it yet. And by the way, I'm going to get a tinfoil hat with a brim.
Let me guess, T1000, T250.
Yeah.
The next CPU learning.
So I was thinking on why other reasons why their data collection could be increasing the way that it is. And one thing I was thinking of was, what if this is a result of simply more data being out there because there's just more data being collected. More people are being born, more people have data, more people are having access to stuff. So you get more people. With every 100 people you get, you're going to get a couple bad people, and they will be of interest of a certain law enforcement agency of some sort. Mm-hmm. Or could this also be like the parameters of search that they're looking for have increased due to technology increases and new things being out there? Like before, they didn't have to look for Instagram. Now they're like, we have to look for Instagram now. With Instagram, we get all these big data. Now we have to increase our requests. So the question is, how much of this is really a reaction to just the fact that more data being out there, or is this more of this seems to be more government tinfoil hat stuff? See, I took my hat off on this one. What do you guys think?
A part of me thinks that so I completely agree with you over the fact that because of the way technology has changed so quickly in the landscape, it's data is more easily, I guess, gathered. Right, because now there's different points of data entry, right? Before it used to be just our desktops and laptops. Now it's extended to tablets and mobile phones. And before in the mobile phones, right, we didn't really have a centralized operating system, and now we do. And so with that, there's all of this data collection, not just only with what information it is, but where the information is, right? So people can even find out where they are at any given moment. So what makes this more dangerous, though, is what happens from an advertising or even military standpoint, right? So it's even likely to, can you imagine this? This is just a very wild scenario. We obviously know what's going on with ISIL and things like that that's happening in the Middle East. And it's also very likely that a lot of these people that are out there are also using very budget smartphones. Some of these budget smartphones also have the capability of providing GPS locations. Now, if the government wants to pull data from there, whether it's from Yahoo or in this particular Google, which Android has most of its, operating systems spread throughout all over the world, then it's easy to get that information, use the location for targeting data, send it to the government, and bomb them. So, things like this, it's pretty scary, right? But again, you don't know what kind of information you're gathering. You
don't say bomb on a podcast. Right?
Yeah, you can. Unfortunately, on the Lazy Tech Guys, we're going to have to be a little bit more, but you have to bleep that one out, Sean. But for the main thing...
I'm not bleeping that out.
But the big thing really
I'm not
is
bleeping that out.
The data that's being gathered now is not just the location data is so huge. To know where you're at any given time is pretty scary, right? You could find out where, what everyone's daily routes are on any given basis. So the same thing could hold true for somewhere in the Middle East. So if you knew what those routes are and you knew what the schedules are like, as long as you could identify these are the same people who are using the same phone, then you could do something about it. It's kind of scary.
It is. I use the analogy of future crime and Minority Report, where, you know, in this world in the future, was like 2050, I think it was supposed to be set in. Um, there's a technology that can basically predict what people are doing, and that's thanks to the technology of that era. There's, you know, everything can recognize who you are based off your iris, and, you know, there's cameras everywhere, and just based off of your heart rate and your reaction to somebody else's interaction with you, they can kind of guess that you might, you know, cause some sort of crime. And wow, what a world that would be. I mean, we would possibly there would be, you know, little to no riots, because maybe the person that would start the riot, we would, you know, apprehend them beforehand.
Yeah.
Or, you know, even there was chatter about, you know, 9/11, and the person who heard it kind of dismissed it, and now he feels really, obviously, very, very guilty, and it's very hard for him to talk about it. And I listened to an interview with him. He's like, yeah, it came across my desk, and, you know, it was in this chatter, but we didn't really think of anything of it. So, playing devil's advocate, getting information on, you know, even if it is the American public, which, you know, the United States said that they would never do, they kind of have to a certain degree. But the line, it's like, where is the line? Is the line because you're under 13 years old, and, you know, because of the law, you're not supposed to be on the internet having email? You know, I tried to sign up an email for my son, and he couldn't. It's like, okay, well, we'll pretend you're 55, or something like that, you know. But that is going to become an ongoing issue, and, you know, hopefully some of these antiquated ideas are going to be updated, and, you know,
it's already happening, right? Like, Apple has already pioneered technology to do fingerprint tracking, right, to open up their phones with Touch ID. And it's very likely to see technologies like that, you know, on Android if it hasn't already happened. So, and, you know, eventually other mobile operating systems are going to follow the same suit. And so it's just really a matter of the government saying, okay, what's acceptable? And if we do that, how much of the people are going to actually tolerate this? Now, if the government decides to play the angle of, look, you know, by doing this, we're protecting you guys, we're going to be doing homeland security, you know, I think that's going to be in the best interest of the American people. Now, obviously, you know, when you're doing, there's a lot of implications involved, law-wise, you know, constitutional-wise, but it also sets a precedent, right, for the rest of the countries that want to do other, you know, requests. So that's why when I was listening to, I think one of your shows that you guys had, where you were talking about just Touch ID, and talking about how there's like security implications with that, right, and how the government can actually tap that kind of information, and how Apple has been pushed to, discern that kind of information. So it's kind of scary, but at the same time, I'm almost find it accepting, only because I'm on the other side of it. I understand why they need to gather the data. I don't see the real harm in it unless they're going to be downloading credit card data. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for the most part, I mean, identifying people, unless there's something to hide, you know what I mean, I don't think is not so much of a big problem. You know,
yeah.
I am concerned about the privacy, but it's not so much a big deal as long as everyone is protecting themselves, and there's ways to, you know, keep yourself from, you know, being exposed.
And although you can't change the Constitution, that's what amendments are for.
Exactly.
You know? So.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely, I don't know, that's just this is everything that we're living through. Yeah. So, but, you know, we'll see how the data collection increases, and they will.
Yeah.
And we'll see what else happens. And if legislation ever jumps in, then I'll be shocked. But hey, you never know what could happen. All right, guys. Last week we talked about Microsoft potentially paying $2 billion for Mojang, the people who make Minecraft. And apparently we were wrong once again. It was $2.5 billion.
You know what? If they would have called me a day earlier, I was going to offer 2.4. But, man,
Tony,
all I'm saying.
Loan.
Yeah.
$1 million, maybe. All right, so it's official today. Microsoft now owns Minecraft. They own Mojang, the creators of it, and not Pearson, as well. Carl and Jacob, who are people who started Mojang, are out the door. So they were like saying, "All right, we got to pay. See you guys later."
I'm gonna be the ass of the podcast and say it's actually pronounced Mojang.
Mojang. All right, Mojang. Fine.
And
You're not an
also,
ass.
it's not official yet. They obviously still have to go through all the FCC filings and everything. It should be done by the end of 2014. But yeah, we can pretty much say that they're part of Microsoft. This is something that has Sean, you and I discussed this at length last week, and we almost ended the podcast I think a half an hour late because we continued to discuss it after we said goodbye. We kept talking about it. But Rad, you pointed out pre-show that this is more than just a video game. This is a platform. I mean, this is if people look at it as a video game, then yeah, it's kind of short-sighted. But I mean, this is something that Microsoft could look at maybe from the inside up, say, hey, look, this particular modder or developer or collaborator is doing amazing work. Maybe it's a possibility that this could be kind of a means of hiring future coders for Microsoft. I know I took that kind of stance when I was looking at this whole thing. But I mean, anything's possible. It's a hefty price tag, but at the same time, because it is more than, like I just said, more than just the one single title. Mojang also has a few other titles in the works. They've got Scrolls, which is kind of a digital version of Magic the Gathering trading cards. They've got another game that they're publishing that was developed by this other company that the name eludes me right now. So it's not just one game. It's just Minecraft is the most popular. But one thing, we can continue talking about the whole platform versus game thing, but Rad, I want your opinion on this. I think because Microsoft is continuing this cloud-first, mobile-first kind of mentality, they're going to keep this as a cross-platform, and we saw at IFA.
Yes.
They
No.
released. Well, hold on.
Yes,
let me finish.
Yes, they will.
Let me finish my story. At IFA, they released a product line that crossed not only Windows but also iOS and Android. It wasn't just they worked on iOS and Android. There were specific icons related to iOS and Android. So they were understanding that other people are going to use these physical products. And in terms of this software, Microsoft's already releasing other software on other competing products, and they've said their future smartwatch is also going to work on Windows Phone, iOS, and Android. But it is interesting, however, that in the press release regarding this acquisition, they did say the future updates. We plan, and I want you to underscore plan. We plan to continue support for quote unquote Minecraft. It wasn't quote unquote Minecraft franchise. It was just Minecraft. So that kind of points to Sean's a little bit of I forget, just kind of not negative, but just against the fact. But
Minecraft
I want to hear
2 will
Rad's
not be
side
on-
because I want to hear Rad's side, and then I want to hear Sean's.
Sean, you go first.
Okay, I want to hear Sean's.
I just simply said Minecraft will stay the way it is because it's on the other platforms. The deals are made, the publishing is done, the deals are there, and they're raking in money for it. But future formats of Minecraft, when they really show what they're going to do with the franchise, will probably be exclusive to Microsoft and or just mobile platforms, but not other platforms like they're extending it to now to the extent of what they're doing. They'll probably be Windows Phone, mobile, Windows. If they do hardware, they'll probably do the Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Android, iOS, and probably keep it at that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Minecraft
that's
2.
the old. Yeah, I think it's even if it's Minecraft 2, I think it's the old school way of thinking now to actually have it platform specific. So Microsoft now, all of these moves that they're making because of the new CEO, they're all about Microsoft Cloud, right? So it doesn't really matter where it runs now. It just matters that the underlying architecture is Microsoft. So a good example of this would be Netflix, right? So everything on Netflix is all Microsoft driven. Everything from .NET all the way to the back end, all using Azure, everything.
Yay,
But-
Silverlight! I love it. No, I don't.
Right, but it goes everywhere, right? So Silverlight's it works on Chrome.
Yep.
It works on like more browsers than it works on Flash, right? So that's the reason they went in that direction,
Exactly.
and it's lightweight. And believe it or not, the developers embrace Silverlight more than they embrace Flash because Flash is more proprietary and Silverlight is open source, if you can believe that. So Microsoft even has like an open source consortium. I didn't even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so I was floored when I found out about that. and there's like a whole website just for that, and it works with Android and iOS and stuff like that, and that's something that's just started recently. So they are really changing the way their culture is, and part of it is just playing nice with all their competitors, because they believe that their new philosophy now is, like you were saying, the cloud first, mobile first, direction, right? Which doesn't really matter as long as everything in the back end is Microsoft. So their real competitors are like Amazon and Google Cloud, which is going to be the big thing. Now, going back to what Tony was saying, I really do believe that the whole point of buying Minecraft is running everything in Azure. That's going to be huge, because now with everything running on Azure, then all the developers just have easy ways to just, like, I want to connect onto the cloud and do this, and that would be it. It doesn't matter what language I'm on. Here's some APIs to run, here's Minecraft, wham, run with it. So Ryan and I actually experienced that, like, with different platforms. Microsoft's trying to do the same thing. You want to run on Linux, you want to run on Python, you want to run on this stuff, doesn't matter. Run whatever you want. You can use Microsoft. If you don't want to use Microsoft, you don't have to. You could use some of the stuff. So they're taking the Frankenstein approach now, similar to what Google is doing, because they have to, right? They're like going head to head. So, but I think the other bigger strategy for buying Mojang is not like just getting into the whole indie game thing. It's the whole platform. Like right now, they made about $100 million a year, which doesn't really seem like a lot, right? When you spend about $2.5 billion on it. But there's a lot of upswing to it, right? When you have Microsoft marketing behind it, right? So when you have Microsoft dollars pushing marketing, Minecraft, it's huge, right? All of a sudden, your $100 million becomes 200 or 300 million a year, and then it pays off itself in just a few years. So, and there's more things to it, obviously. I mean, what other platform has it not been on, right? That's another thing that Microsoft could concentrate
Well, not
on.
Windows Phone or Windows 8, which is interesting. But maybe
it's not on there.
I do want to ask you guys. Right now, I do want to ask you guys the one thing that a lot of the homegrown Minecraft users like about it is that to a certain degree they can monetize it themselves. I mean, there's Twitch and everything that they do it through, and like OMG chat and whatnot. But Minecraft or Mojang had an issue with the EULA, their terms of terms of agreement. And now that Microsoft is going to step in, do you think that at any point that Microsoft is going to do kind of a 180 and screw people that host private servers, or they won't allow certain monetizations of different mods or texture packs and that sort of thing? Do you think they'll do something like that, or will they keep it open as the development and indie community as has been up until now?
I think they will do that, and to lean a little bit towards Sean's direction, I think they're going to create an Azure version of it, right? Where they're going to hey, here is your own private server, but it's running on .NET, and it's running on this platform, and look how much more you can get with this platform. So they tend to do stuff like that. So now that Microsoft is building everything for all these platforms, they're always going to make the premium version of it to be on the Windows side. That's just going to be the nature of it. So, but are they going to make it even across the board? I don't know. It just really depends on what Mr. Nutella does. But I really do believe that everything is going to go into the cloud, and it's just smarter. It's just smarter business, right? Because now you don't have to worry about running a server. You just say, I need an Azure account. You just fire up your Azure account, and bang, you have a virtual server sitting out somewhere on the internet, and you don't have to have some hardware sitting at home with an internet connection on 24/7. So it's a smart. I mean, it's something that's been going on for years, almost a decade now. The whole cloud game, right? Everyone's getting to the cloud game, and for Minecraft, multiplayer is such a big portion of it, right? And if you do your own private server, there's a lot of limitations doing a private server, because if someone's located all the way in London and you're in California, I mean, can you imagine the kind of experience you have in multiplayer? It's not going to be a great experience. But if you do everything in the cloud, you have access to all of these different servers from different parts of the world, and you don't have to have, jacked up pingbacks. Sorry about that. I suck.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I think those things are, going to be the thing that Microsoft is going to pitch. It's the same way Google always pitches having Office in the cloud versus having it installed as a rich client. So,
So
yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a more bigger thing.
Okay, not countering any of the cloud stuff, saying all the cloud stuff's doing. We're gonna take a break after this, but after we're gonna take all the cloud stuff. This is a quote from the Mojang, Tony, website, and this is from their Q&A. What about the other editions of Minecraft? Will they stop being developed? Question mark. Answer. There is no reason for the development, sales, and support of the Mac PC, Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, PS3, Vita, iOS, and Android versions of Minecraft to stop. Of course, Microsoft cannot make decisions for other companies or predict the choices that they might make in the future. We are extremely proud of all of our additions and awesome things you have achieved by playing together. So they are definitely in a position to do whatever the heck they want to do. I am still calling it out, saying that they're going to they're going to open it up in the cloud like the way you guys are saying, but the ability to get to it is going to be, you have to have certain things. They'll be widely available, but you have to go through certain things. So I'm just saying the next iteration of Minecraft, which would be whatever the heck they're going to call it, Minecraft. We call it Minecraft 2, but it could be called Minecraft Ultimate. Either way, you know,
I'm just saying. What are certain things? What are the certain things that you're talking about?
I have no idea. Because here's the thing about Minecraft. Minecraft is like a building platform. It's a game. It's all these different things, and I love it. It's like a great idea, and you can do whatever you want to do with it. But at the same time, how do we know that the cats at Mojang aren't secretly working on really expanding it to something really cooler? Microsoft got their eyes on it, thought about it, saying we could expand this out. We could do toys. We could do other stuff. We could really expand this out, and with our marketing dollar, we can make this bigger, like Lego's big, only maybe the digital Lego's big or something like that. I mean, they're definitely setting up that position. I'm just saying that it's just going to be on more Microsoft-friendly or friends platforms in particular. That's the statement I'm sticking with. But either way, we won't know till about a year and a half, 2 years from now, anyway. and then we can argue about it then on LTG Show episode 477. All right, let's take a break, guys. We've been rambling on here for long enough. Everybody, get your teas. Everybody, relax and everything. Not you out there listening. All you out there listening, I need you to sit down. Come here. Sit around. Come here. Come around, Uncle Sean. Sit around here, and I'm going to tell a little story. The story I'm going to talk about is this thing called Audible.com. It's a really, really cool audiobook service. Now, as I'm pretending like I'm joking, like you guys are sitting in a circle, I'm telling a story, that's almost like the experience you get with Audible.com. It's almost like you have a professional reading well, actually it is. You get a professional reading a story to you, and you just get to sit back and just take it all in. You get to let your imagination run wild, see things much better than what you get out of the movies, and really get the full story to the extent of what was imagined by the author themselves. Audible.com is a great service. They have the latest releases. They have their new books, all different types of books, including fiction, nonfiction, history, and it just goes on and on. They work on every device, so then what you have in your pocket or your computer itself that you're listening to this on, yes, they will work on that. And it's just a really cool service that we want you to check out. This URL here will get you some deals on it. It'll allow you to check it out for free. Use it. Please sign up. It helps us out at the same time. It gets you a free book in the deal. And you get to save money while you're a member. So this is the URL we want you to use. audibletrial.com/lazy. Once again, audibletrial.com/lazy. Remember that URL, sign up, enjoy the service, keep the book if you don't like the service, which I can't imagine because honestly it is really, really cool. It's easy to use. It's very well done. So audibletrial.com/lazy. Go ahead and check them out, and we like to thank them for being a sponsor. Hey, Tony.
Yes, sir.
You are the biggest fan of Windows 8 I have ever met in my life. For various reasons, but
Thank
you
you.
are. Now, the thing is, Microsoft. Yeah. The thing is, Windows 8 is not. It doesn't stop there. We're going beyond that, right? Microsoft is going beyond that.
What I told somebody today is with Microsoft, change is inevitable. And although change...
That's such a lame slogan, dude. I'm just kidding.
What slogan? I came up with that all by myself.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, I can't see you. Did you upgrade your screen? I can't see you, just so you know.
No, but looks fine on my end.
Okay. All right.
Okay. If you can't see me, imagine me with clouds behind me. No. Yeah, so essentially, we although change is inevitable when it comes to Microsoft, we got a new CEO, and this CEO is from an engineering background. I think he's a lot more customer focused as well as more business slash enterprise focused, which is really important because Windows 8. Windows 8 isn't really business friendly, small business friendly, for lack of a better phrase. Although it is something that you can learn over time, businesses don't want to stop their business and teach their reps and whatnot how to get to the charms and how to find the start menu, or not even the start menu, how to find the start screen and how to optimize that.
Or why they called it charms in the first place.
Hey, I just reported. Anyways, so
That
is Steven Sinofsky.
That's all him.
So with him out of the way, there's definitely
Yep.
right. There's definitely some changes happening, and we actually saw some changes that they put on screen. We're like, oh, cool! That's a new innovative start menu. When's that coming? And it was kind of promised summer. And summer's passing very quickly as we speak. And so we never really knew if this was something that was just a concept or if they were really working on it. And actually on September 30th, we are going to get a definitive answer of what is next for Windows. And as The Verge reports, a lot of the companies, or rather press outlets, are getting this invite that says, join us to hear about what's next for Windows and the enterprise. Now, mind you, this is a press event here in San Francisco, and we're going to try to make it. I'm in contact with the PR agency, so I'm going to try to make it, although it might be a conflict of interest based off of my day job. But we've seen some leaked shots from, I want to call, not WinSource, but there's another German website that if you go to youtube.com, they actually have some pretty good videos of what this, I guess you would call, a technical preview of Windows 9 / Threshold is going to be. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of what we've seen a start menu come back, but in the start menu is also the live tiles attached to the start menu. There's also the ability to open up Metro or modern apps on the desktop, which you can't do right now. You can pin them to the desktop, but you can't open them on the desktop. And then something else that was really crazy, you can have multiple desktops, which kind of made me think that it was not just multiple desktops as in like multiple screen desktops, but like multiple desktops on one screen. So if you want to think about it, kind of like how Android has multiple home screens. And that was a really kind of innovative / very different mindset to what Windows has been in the past. And some people might think that that's convoluted, but if it works for you, then why not? Rad, you right there said it's about time, and it sounds like something that you've wanted. If you don't have double screen, this kind of gives you that double screen experience without actually having to lug your AO screen with you when you go to your client.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little background over why it's so huge, Linux and other Linux-based operating systems like OS X have had multiple desktops, but OS X has had it in a limited fashion because they try to make it developer-centric, which they've done like really well when it comes to building stuff like on the web. But this is something that Windows users have been asking forever, and there's always third-party stuff that does it, but it's never perfect. So now with Microsoft doing it, that allows them to use the entire, kernel of the OS, and so that means things are a lot faster rather than emulated. So you could run. So before you had you guys remember dual booting? Like kind of how on OS X you have Boot Camp, right?
Yeah.
You're switching from Windows, then you switch the thing, right? Which is basically a virtual box, but it's never a smooth way of doing it. So. But on Linux, it's perfectly smooth, right? Like on Ubuntu, they have multiple desktops, and you could have like 8 desktops at a time, and it runs perfectly smooth. So if you wanted to switch and watch a movie or whatever, you just switch to the new desktop and bang, it's there. If you want to switch to like your stock market setup, you just switch to that, and everything's already set that way. It has its own set of icons. It has its own set of its own trash or whatever. And for this one, I mean, it's going to be a big deal for power users, and that's one thing that power users hated about current Windows right now is that it's so consumer centric rather than power centric. So
Right. Now, they've also introduced the concept of a notification center, which is a little different. I have a notification center for Google Now, which is kind of cool and useful, at least with the Google ecosystem. This is going to work just alongside that. If you don't use Google Now, then this would be kind of the one place where you get your email notifications, weather notifications, all within this little box that kind of populates in the lower right-hand corner. Additionally, when I mentioned you would be able to see like your standard start menu like you have in Windows 7 next to a start screen, there's going to be an option, and that's actually what people have been asking for, is like, give me the option to either turn on or off the start screen or the start menu. And based off of what we've seen with this, and again, this is all kind of leaked out information. This is not anything that I have seen on my end. All of this info that I'm giving is purely public knowledge based off of these other websites, and it is my sole opinion as a private citizen. I really professionally, they haven't said anything. I asked my boss about this; she hangs up the phone. So, but
really? I mean, not even goodbye, not even say. They just straight. Hey, what's up with Windows? Get off the phone.
No, just hey. So I think. Ooh.
Dang, that is, dude. Dude, your boss sucks. I'm kidding.
No, but I'm
kidding.
This is exciting though, because the joke is, and it's not far from the truth, but the joke is every other version of Windows is good, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of
it's kind of like Star Trek.
Wait a
minute. What?
Star Trek first starts bad and gets better as it progresses. Okay.
Really?
And that's how each season goes.
1 no, 2 yes, 3 no, 4 yes.
Are we talking about the movies?
Yeah.
Oh,
you're talking about the movies. I'm talking about the series. I was like,
series,
dude, don't talk about. Finna say, man, don't talk about the series, bro.
1 no, 2 yes, 3 yes. I liked 4, did not like 5, loved 6. Everything past 6 is just.
I got lost too quick, so anyway. All right. So when is this event happening again, Tony?
So it's happening on the 30th of September, which is actually the day right after the 29th of September, and it's here in San Francisco. Now, I'm good like that, right?
Yeah, that's pretty smooth, dude. Pretty smooth.
What we don't really know is 3 things. Is this just going to be a technical build? Is this going to be available to how they did the public developer preview before? We don't know about that. We don't know price. I mean, we don't even know if this is going to be a free upgrade from Windows 8.1 to Windows 9. And then lastly, we don't know the name. We're calling it Windows 9. We're calling it Threshold. I mean, for all we know, they could call it Windows
8.5.
8. And
nice.
Brad, you actually bring up a good point. And let me ask you this: should they stay with the whole Windows 8 kind of moniker, or should they disattach themselves from that because it is the end of the Sanofsky era?
I don't know. Aside from these leaks, there's this other news that's been floating around that they're dropping the phone from Windows Phone and just calling it Windows.
Yes, and
so
that's not going to be confusing at all.
And so it makes me wonder.
From Apple. Jeez.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the Apple Watch.
Jeez. No, the iPad.
Everything.
The iPad. Well, you already released the iPad. Didn't you release the iPad 2? Then you're going to release the iPad
Well, we have
again.
an iPad Air now, so...
Yeah, don't we have 2 iPad Airs now? Or didn't we?
No,
anyway, it doesn't matter.
No.
iPad and iPad Air. Yeah. Or the new iPad.
No, they had... Yeah, what? The new iPad. Really?
There's
That's
iPad,
the name
iPad
of the
2,
new...
iPad 3, the new iPad.
No. iPad, iPad 2, iPad Mini, iPad... Yeah,
the new iPad, right?
It's terrible.
Yeah, but anyway... I mean, I think
punch
it's just
somebody in the face.
I know. It's really going to be interesting to see how this all shapes, because the one person that I think that is going to help Microsoft a lot is Joe Belfiore. He's the reason why the Windows Phone has had such a huge following, despite the small footprint it has in the United States.
He is awesome. He's so charismatic, and I think his and this is not me being like a Windows Phone fanboy. This is just me like respecting the man for as a developer
as
and
a
a
UX
leader.
guy.
Yeah, totally.
I love his role.
He
in the
makes a
Hobbit.
lot
It
of
was
sense. I
fantastic.
mean, he's able to resonate with regular people and still be able to communicate with his engineers to deliver a product that makes sense. So it's hard to find that combination. Unfortunately, I mean, you know, in the previous leadership, you know, whoever that person has he's gonna make decisions based on what he thinks works best. So and now it just seems like there's a little bit of, you know, rollback from what they've done with Windows 8. But now, if what you're saying is true, Tony, where they're gonna have people choose between what's Metro and using the start screen, I think it's gonna be a smart move. My only question now is how does this work in regards to like hybrid devices? So there's a lot of devices that have been sold
The
that
two-in
have
ones.
the two-in ones,
Like
which
the-
I've
like
been
the
always
Surface.
interested in moving, and
Yeah.
interested in checking out, particularly Surface Pro 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You come
and
over. I have it right here.
yeah. Man, I'll have to check it out. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like I have a Air. I just got a Mac Pro somewhere. So, but at the same time, I want to jump back into the Windows game to be able to, you know, do some more development because that's
Hold on.
really
Can we
where
take a step
So,
back? Wait, can we take a step back? Did Brad just buy 2 Apple products?
Yeah.
No, no, they were given to him at work. No, I was kidding. So anyway, guys, so we know the day of the thing. We'll talk about more about the announcement or more things come out. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Last thing, I don't know what
Yeah.
happens with Windows RT. I have no idea. Stop asking me.
That's a good question.
Let-
Too. What happens
let
with
it
that?
die.
Stop asking
Let
me.
it die.
I don't know.
Let it die.
That's
All
what
right.
Sean says, not what I say.
Now,
I
other
say
things that
nothing.
have been other things happening in the world of technology. Net neutrality. That's been a big topic for the last couple months, and it looks like the FCC has officially closed the gates. They have finally done accepting comments. They were actually accepting comments from people just to figure out what their opinions are about the net neutrality issue. You know, they said one thing, some people are saying something else, and the telecoms are saying something. So they just wanted to get a public opinion overall. And it looks like they got 3.7 million replies.
That's
Which
double
is-
over the Nifty flip.
How long
That's
does it take
all-
to scroll through that, man?
I like how they said now they got to go through them. I'm like, how? Really? But anyway, they said that based on an automated analysis of over 800,000 comments, they believe that 2/3 of the comments actually were asking for the telecoms to reclassify the things as utilities.
What's the difference?
Essentially what that means is they would have to meter us. We pay for the data that we use, sort of like the energy company. They'd be regulated like the energy company. They'd be regulated like other things like that. But it would be like PG&E. You get data, you pay for it. You don't use data, you don't pay for it. But there'll be an amount of fee you always have to pay, like in taxes and all that stuff. So that kind of idea.
Insane. That's
Yeah.
a bad idea.
Yeah, well, that's kind of that's what 2/3 of them believe. But at the same time, this is also to counter a lot of the caps, a lot of fact that most people don't go over their caps. Most people don't use data, but they're getting charged for caps, and most people are like, well, can I just pay for the data I want that I use?
I'm wearing a cap right now.
That's like a huge apathetic way of looking at solving a
Well-
problem, though. Like,
Well,
so what happens though? What happens to like small businesses that are using the internet all day long? You know what I mean? Like, what happens to that? Like those guys,
Well,
there's millions of them.
Well, it depends on how they meter the caps, really. Like, let's just figure this way: if the perfect world, and I'm not going to go on this because the net neutrality is a huge topic. In a perfect world, let's say if you're paying $10 for 3 gigabytes on your phone, so technically, if I use 1 gigabyte, shouldn't I be paying $3?
Yeah, that's still stupid. I mean, like, if
no,
you're gonna,
I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's kind of the idea, and that's how a lot of people. Now, maybe it will really translate that you'll get charged $5 because you'll be taxes of $2 that the government makes you pay and all that. But that's kind of the idea, and that is what it looks like 2/3 of those 3.7 million comments said.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the mobile industry, I had people saying like, I have unlimited data, but I only use 2 gigs. How come you guys charge me for the unlimited data? It's like, okay, well, we could do that, and then every month we would charge you for the exact amount that you would use. But then maybe that one month you use a crap ton of data, and you just for whatever reason don't feel like you should spend that because it's just a sudden spike in your bill. And it's the same sort of thing with your electricity and everything else.
Exactly.
Do you like that? Like, no, I don't like that.
Well,
okay.
Well, Well, but how is that a problem? If I use my AC all summer long, I should pay more money for the fact that I've been running my AC all
Not that
summer long. I
simple,
don't see.
man.
I mean, no. I'm
Hmm.
just saying.
Yeah.
No, this is simplification, but I'm saying in general, that's kind of how it is. That's how people are asking for it to be switched to a
Yeah, but
utility
you can't.
for
You're not
that kind of
including
ICO.
everything else in it, dude. So,
Hey,
for
hey, hey!
instance, yeah, you're not including.
I,
That's such a very blanket like way of looking at stuff. Like the way. I mean, obviously that's like a lot of the people's views, but you just can't view it that way. A lot of those people that are also in there, people that don't comment, that actually are working on stuff. You know, like for instance, Rackspace. Rackspace holds like thousands, if not millions, of businesses on their servers. One of
including
them
us.
being like
mm-hmm.
Wikipedia, including us, including me. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like now, for every time someone uses and downloads, looks at Lazy Tech Guy's website, are we gonna be charged for that bandwidth? That's stupid. They would have to
They
charge
be
that back
charged for
to
everything.
us, and that's
Well,
not our fault. So if we become successful, if someone
mhm.
is checking out Lazy Tech Guys and we hit 1 million hits, we all of a sudden now have to pay for that? That
Why
makes
would we have to
no
pay for it?
sense. Because anything,
They're
because
supposed to be there to
Rackspaces now
copy.
has to pay for it, right? Because they're the one
Mhm.
paying for the bandwidth now, right? The server, our files are sitting on their server because someone is watching our videos, listening to our podcasts, and now we have to pay for it because they're going to charge us back. You know, also a bad thing I think that's going to happen
So
too,
how is real quick? So how is the telecoms involved in this? Considering how we currently pay
because they
Comcast
have
for
to
this
pay
exact
a
same deal.
bandwidth for it. So it's the same way like the guy from SoftBank wants to compete in this business is because like Comcast and a lot of these other bigger companies have a huge bank on the bandwidth, and they're the ones that choose how much bandwidth is being charged for. The same thing holds true for not just the cell phones, but just the internet in general. So, for instance, like CDN is huge business in the billions, multi-billions dollars of business, right?
Hmm.
Videos and podcasts. I mean, Twit is all about CDN, right? And you pay thousands of dollars, and this is just one company that does this. There's millions of
Hmm.
companies that have to pay that, but if you put that whole rule where someone has to pay, X amount of money for X amount of bandwidth, that's nuts. So now there's going to probably be like companies that are going to be, black marketing the bandwidth. They're going to just end up flipping the bandwidth data and selling it back, just buying it as a wholesale and then selling it back to the public, which is stupid. So there's going to be businesses, and you don't know if those businesses are going to die. It's sort of like Bitcoin, but it's just such a bad idea overall. And this is just, that's what happens when, like, I hate to say it, sorry, I'm going to say this, when stupid people in large, in large quantities try to think of ideas, because one person will say something and they'll say, I agree with that, but they don't really analyze, like, in the implications of the idea. So it's just bad
So
overall.
real fast, were you a bigger fan of the way the net neutrality stuff was before? Were you a fan of the internet high lanes that they were doing after proposing, or what the people are asking for? Those are three different things here that are happened. What was in place before the fast lanes that were proposed, which is what what sparked this entire ordeal,
Hmm.
and what's happening. So between those three, I mean, which of these three were your biggest fan of? Which is what it was before,
Well,
or what they were trying to change it to?
so what it was before was okay because there was no dominant player at the time, right? So at the
Right.
time it was just Sprint, AT&T, and T, and these other back-end guys, and they were charging. There wasn't so much bandwidth being used because there wasn't that much devices and stuff connected to the Internet of Things at that time. But
All right.
now, because everything is happening at once, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
mobile going wide, you have internet going faster. There needs to be another competitor coming in that's charging a lot smaller. Now, a more ideal situation is what Japan is doing, right? They're charging very tiny, right? Because their thought process and their philosophy is like
Who's
everyone should
charging?
have
Who's charging?
Japan.
The government,
And
the
no, just Japan.
telecoms, who?
Their government, the telecom, the entire way they do business over there is totally different from the way the United States does it. So when they interviewed the CEO of SoftBank, on not all things D, but Recode, I would assume, they were asking him questions like, "What would you do differently?" He goes, "Why isn't like United States doing what Japan is doing? Japan is going like 50 times faster, and we're paying like 30% less, 30%
Mm-hmm.
of what you guys are paying, and we're going 50 times faster than you guys are." So another person, it's like someone from, he was making the analogy that someone in China doesn't really know how, or someone from here may not know what it's like to have, clean smog until you go to China, right? And you realize, man, the air is so bad here, but over there in China, everyone's used to it. So in Japan, everyone's used to faster speeds, but when they get over here, they're like, man, this is garbage. And it's all because of the way everything's played out over here. You know what I mean? And that's just because of the way, not just the law, but just the way the businesses run over here. It's more capitalist than it is, opportunist, which is let everybody win, and then there's more business to be made out of it. So.
Okay, so now the world has changed. The law that was in place that you said you liked is gone. It's finished. They said, all right, we're going to replace it with a new law that's going to allow people to do internet fast lanes. That was a proposed law. That's what they changed.
That's proposed, but it was not confirmed yet.
It was not confirmed because of the fact that 3.7 million people are jumping all over them saying, don't do this. Now, should they go back to what they did before? Should they try to change it? Because if they go back to what they were before, I think honestly everybody would just say fine. But they're still insisting, they're trying to change it, and while they're trying to change it, other people say, well, if you're going to change it to this. So that's kind of where this entire thing is just ugly. And yeah, you're right. If it goes back to the way it was, maybe that would be the best.
Yeah, it won't be the best because there's still things like implications going back to the way before. It's not the same because there's more people on the internet. There's just more things on the internet. So what they need to do is they need to level the playing field just a bit to bring another competitor in. Part of it is SoftBank. Right now, Sprint owns a huge piece of the whole bandwidth pie. But the thing is, they don't have the leveraging power to be able to do the stuff that Comcast is doing. You know what I mean? So if SoftBank comes in and says, hey, we're going to have cable for $15 a month, check it out, and it's 10 times faster, they still have to go through the law to get the kind of bandwidth that Comcast already has. It's not like the way Japan has it, where it's like you have to make certain bids. And over here, it's sort of like, what do we have zoned out, and what do we have contracts for? Can we have this and this and this? And then the government says, okay, here you go. I don't think there's any competitor doing that right now, but here you go. So that's what's happening. And
so should we move to the FCC? Just say, all right, drop all these plans. Let's look at how Japan's doing it.
Yeah, that's what the CEO is saying. But it's obviously there's a lot of constituencies for there that has to leverage that power. And it's all political, and they could totally do it. I mean, the United States has the power to do it. They're the one that started the whole internet craze. ARPANET was here, not everywhere else in the world. But in Japan, they were able to figure it out. But obviously, they're smaller. You know what I mean? They're more agile, they're a little bit quicker, and be able to make decisions quicker. But over here, there's so much red tape. You know what I mean? And if you run across just one red tape after going 50 of them, that stops. You know what I mean? That's what makes this suck. So, and this is just part of the system. And part of what I think one way we could really, really solve this is educating the public. And it's not just about yelling and going back to the things we were. It's sort of like, this is what we could do, and this is what you need to educate the lawmakers to do. You know what I mean? And if you do this, we're willing to pay for this money. We're willing to pay for this bandwidth. You know what I mean? And so that's what needs to really happen. And if we can get, if people like ourselves, like our own media outlet and other media outlets are like educated enough to say, if you could say this to your lawmakers, these are the kinds of ideas, and you push for an idea rather than I don't like this, it doesn't solve anything to say I don't like this, right? It's more easier to say this is kind of a plan we propose, and then you just come together and then just create some real proposal and then put some force behind it. So. I remember they were trying to push the replaced one in no matter what, hence all this crap started. By the way, Rad, I left you an article in there. We have to move on, but Rad, I left you an article in the chat. Feel free to I just saw that and I was like, oh, that's kind of ironic. I'm just talking to the wall right now because I can't see your faces. Yeah. I think my browser is frozen, so we'll see what happens.
All right. So, okay, so mobile and Google, and they're trying to really expand their market and do quite a bit more. Tony, what is Google looking to do with Android to become the biggest phone people of all time, I guess?
So back in Google I/O 2014, Google introduced this concept project of Android One, which would put Android handsets in the hands of developing countries, not so much third world countries, but developing in emerging markets. If you look at emerging markets right now, that is a huge well, no pun intended, but it's a huge market push. I mean, right now, less than about 10% of the population in India actually have smartphones. The rest of them that have phones have feature phones. And in the smartphone market, there's Android, there's Windows Phone, there's Firefox Mobile, and maybe a few others. And there's a bunch of Android I guess, clones and variants using ASOP, which is Android's open source project, but they're not using Google services. So what Google wanted to do was to say, hey, look, we're going to make Android viable and very inexpensive for your populations and future customers of ours. And so they worked with a number of manufacturers to develop these hardware phones. They also worked with supply chains to make certain components for these phones either free or very, very inexpensive to create these phones. So they're nowhere near a Galaxy S5, nowhere near a LG G3. But for these particular markets, they are, for an Android ecosystem, they are going to be very, very useful. And not only that, they've worked with certain carriers in these countries to make data, and we were talking about data caps, data free for some of Google services. For example, when they do an Android update, it's going to be free if they're using it over the air. If they download an app and they have to do an app update, that would be free. Or if they're going to watch a YouTube video, it would be free up until a certain amount. So that's really cool that Google was able to do this with certain carriers and certain hardware developers. And so there are 3 new handsets that were announced yesterday. There's the Spice One Dream Uno, the Micromax Canvas A1, and the Carbon Sparkle 5. So these are really kind of bare bones. We're looking at there's like a minimum specification that they have to meet that Google has set. So the 4.5-inch FWVGA display, very low on the pixel density, quad-core 1.3 gigahertz processor, dual SIM compatibility, which is very important in these countries, only 1 gig of RAM. But again, KitKat Android 4.4.4 can run on a gig of RAM, which is really useful. 4 gigs of onboard memory, SD card slot, and then a rear 5-megapixel camera. And so, yeah, these are not feature-packed phones. They're probably not going to have NFC, or they might in the future. But I mean, this is Android and Google's kind of bigger push to get Android and Google services in the hands of these people that may look at other options, especially for the price point. Again, they're really hitting the low-end margins, so these customers can not only maybe spend just a little bit more, because there are Windows phones out there that are only $25 to buy, but then again, when you use the apps, when you go onto the internet, when you download the updates, that's going to cost you data. And the fact that if you stick with these carriers and you stick with these hardware, and you get all the app updates and the software updates directly from Google, because this is a pure Google experience. There's not going to be any kind of overlay. It's, in a sense, hopefully going to be a much better experience in the long run for these customers. So, I mean, only time is going to tell. And I know some people had some hands-on experience from these phones. And yeah, I mean, they're not the greatest, but they work and they do what they're supposed to do. And for $100, yeah, okay, you lose it, but it's only $100 for a smartphone in that market. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
And
for a market like that, yeah, I mean, there's still I don't know what the numbers are like, obviously, with the entire smartphone consuming the entire planet, but I would assume that there's still a huge handful of people that are still not on board yet, that are still on the Blackberries or cell phones.
Sure.
And I mean, we were at that point, right, where feature phones and smartphones were priced the same way, and so it just seemed like an easy and logical transition to just, gosh, this TV might as well get HD one, right?
Right.
At that time. So I mean, same thing holds for smartphones, and I think it's just a natural evolution of it. And I'm just wondering, at one point, where does Windows Phone go at that point? You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of market they're trying to penetrate through, right? Because right now they don't have United States; it's just the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, they have
a very minor embrace for.
Nokia has the Lumia 535 or 525, which
the 6 something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the MSRP on those in those countries are like the equivalent of maybe about $25 to $35. I mean, on hardware alone, that's a great price point. But then again, and you get into this whole thing where these individuals, they don't have Wi-Fi everywhere like we do, so they have to use the data. And I don't know how their data plans rank out there, but it's probably fairly expensive because it's so not as affluent as it is over here.
Yeah.
So if they can find another platform that gives them the similar access to the internet and applications, and up to a certain point data would be free, that's going to be great for them. They're not going to use Spotify. They don't care about that. They probably don't even care about Netflix, and Netflix isn't even available there. But the fact is, the key basis of Gmail, Hangouts, even Google Voice, I mean, if they can use those things for free, Google's going to make money off of ads, which is great for them.
That's the real goal.
That's definitely the real goal. That's definitely the real goal.
Android is just like the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everything else that comes with it is the big deal. The apps, the services, the platform. That's really what it comes down to.
And Apple's going to say, look, our experience is so much cleaner than it is with Android One. Yeah, it is. But no one's going to buy, in that market, if they buy a $600 iPhone 6 or 6 Plus, whatever it is, they're going to get jacked the next 24 hours. I guarantee it. But they can shell out.
Especially if they're wearing that iWatch with it too, and they're showing off they got it.
But if they get a $100 phone and their friends are getting $100 phones, it's not really going to be kind of sticking out like a sore thumb and connect the world like we kind of want. Facebook's doing the same thing with their Facebook app. They're in emerging markets. They're limiting the amount of video plays and everything, which is great. So Google's kind of playing to that as well too, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, we'll see how this turns out. I'm sure it's going to do well. And I'm actually I like the entire thing too. I think it's a pretty good move. So, all right. With that, we are going to end the show. Rad sing.
Rad sing.
I was thinking like you do Sweet Low Sweet Chariot or something like that. Anyway, so thank you for hanging out with us.
Let's go bring the troop back.
I don't know. Well. All right, so thank you very much for hanging out with us. This is the Tech Podcast, the LTG show, part of the Lazy Tech Guys website. Please visit the website. You can also email us at comments@lazytechguys.com. Call us at 707-722-5299. You can even find us on many social networks if you look up Lazy Tech Guys. So Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Lazy Tech Guys. Just type it in. You will find us. YouTube is the only one that's different. Lazy Tech TV, that's the one you want to subscribe to. So subscribe to us there. We would really appreciate it, and you get to follow all the videos that we are putting up there on a
We have 1,000 subscribers. You guys know that?
Keep it up, y'all. Keep it up.
Yeah,
Share with your friends.
Thank you all.
Subscribe to more. So thank you, thank you for all that. We also thank Audible.com for being responsible for being a sponsor. Audibletrial.com/lazy. That's the URL you want to use to sign up. Go ahead and do so and enjoy a free book. Now, Tony, any other little things you want to say before we adjourn the show?
Yeah. So on talking about YouTube, I'm going to be uploading a video later on tonight talking about the Windows Phone and the interaction of it from an Android user standpoint. So that's going to go up live tonight. And then I also got this bad boy that I'm going to be reviewing, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 10.1 inch. So this is a quad display, whatever. It's actually pretty cool. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit more in-depth review. And if you want to follow me, you can hit me up on Google+, Tony Hannity's, or find me on Twitter, LTG Tony. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Rad, how about you?
You could find me
Anything
at... I guess you could find me at Rad Castro. I'm the Director of Business Development for Tuple. Is at Twit and LTG. Yeah.
Tuple.
You
know how much I love that name. you know how much I love that name, dude. Tuple. Anyway, so I'm Sean Wilburn. You can find me on many different places, including LTG. My website is Sean Wilburn, SEAN Wilburn, WILBURN.com. You can also find me as well. What is it here? Google Plus. Just find me on this one here. I'm under Sean P. Wilburn. Find me. Send me a message. Love to hear from you. And of course, we always have the public thing. So, everyone, thank you again for hanging out. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week to talk more tech news, tech information, tech, all this other tech this and tech that, and that is what we do. Guys, thank you again for hanging out. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.
Peace.